Just look, we're going to be mates tomorrow because we're both from Queensland, Ados. But I just want to type down best rabbit recipes because I need to know what the best kind of rabbit stew or the best sort of rabbit dinner I'm going to have to make, mate. By the end of Sunday afternoon footy, bro. Hey?
To be honest, I didn't even know there was a Google search for that.
We're gonna rustle something up. We're gonna rustle up something very, very nice, guys. I'll see you on the other side. Howdy everyone, it's Sam. Welcome back to the Wobble and Jaw Sports channel. If you're new around here, hope I can get you to consider liking the content and subscribing to the channel. But if you are a regular around these here parts, thank you very much for the continuous support. At the start of the season, I reckon this looked about to be one of the big blockbuster games of 2023. And unfortunately, someone's form has gone a little bit like that, whereas the other one has stayed at a pretty high consistency so far in 2023. It is the Rabbitohs versus the Cowboys this Sunday afternoon. And to help me preview this contest is a man that I've never collaborated with before. And I'm very, very grateful that he's been able to give up his time. He's been very gracious to come on in and talk some friggin' footy with me, man. Mr. Ados the Great. You can all click on his name in the title and it'll take you straight to his YouTube channel and all his other social media platforms. The link to them will be in the description box below at the conclusion of this live stream. Ados, it is really nice to meet you, man, and I'm excited to start talking footy with you. How are you this evening?
Yeah, good, man. Good. Really good to meet you too. Finally, obviously I've seen your content in the past before, but it's good to actually have a conversation for once. So, I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for having me on.
For sure, man, for sure. And thank you to everyone that's just starting to trickle on in. We've got Mr. Jason Reeder. Thank you. We've got Nicholas McKercher as well. Thank you very much for the compliment, guys. If you have any questions for Ados or myself, chuck them in and I'll get to them as soon as I possibly can, man. But because this is the first ever interaction I've had with you, bro, being that we're a couple of Queenslanders nowadays anyway, in my case, how is it that you came to support South Sydney? How and why, man?
I mean, it's a good story. I love this story. That basically tells the story of how it all happened. So when I was very young, like I'm talking like maybe 2 or 3 years old, my dad, he's never been a big footy fan, but he wanted me to get into sport at a young age. He obviously followed the cricket, the tennis, stuff like that, but he never followed rugby league or AFL or anything. But he went out and he got me two little plush footies. He got me a little Rabbitohs one and he got me a little West Coast Eagles one for the AFL. And ever since then, I've just loved both those sides. Like when the Rabbitohs had come on back in like the late 90s and obviously not so much the early 2000s because we won't talk about that time. But, I was excited because my red and green team was playing as a kid. So, growing up, I just absolutely adored the Rabbitohs. And, being a kid from Queensland, supporting a New South Wales team when I hate the Blues is it gets a lot of questions asked. But, that's the story. My dad never really watched rugby league, but bought me those little footies and they just both sides stuck. So I go for a Western Australia team in the AFL and a New South Wales team in the NRL.
You got a finger in every corner of the compass, mate. I freaking love it. Yeah, man. A couple of your game day experiences, man. What are some of the best of those that you've had?
So, like, actually going to the games?
Yeah, dude.
So, ironically, I haven't been to too many in New South Wales. When I was younger, I went to a lot. I go to nearly every Queensland game except for, obviously, the Cairns ones because it is a bit of a trek to get up there. But probably my worst experience was at Amy Park. The Storm, we got tailed up by the Storm. I think this was in about 2014 or 15. Absolutely tailed up by the Storm. And the fans, like I've been at Suncorp Stadium with some of the worst Broncos fans imaginable. But these Storm fans put a sour taste in my mouth. Like, they were just horrible,
I know.
unnecessary rubbish from them. So that was probably the worst experience I'd had. But there's heaps of good ones. Like the recent one at Seabus Super Stadium, like it was the first time I'd ever been to Seabus actually, because most of the games I'd be going to Suncorp or Sunshine Coast Stadium and stuff like that. But Seabus, like the fans were amazing, the food was great, the atmosphere was it was actually so good. So I was really, really impressed with what the Titans put together there. So that was one of the really good experiences for me. Obviously, the last few Magic rounds have been just amazing.
Yeah.
Like Magic, I honestly, like, not to sound biased, but I think Queensland does rugby league so much better in terms of, like, I don't think New South Wales could recreate something like Magic round. They just don't. They don't have the Caxton. They don't have that whole walkway through to Suncorp. Like, it's just it's honestly magical. Honestly,
Yeah.
and probably. Another good experience I had was the one time I did go to Cairns, Barlow Park, amazing stadium. I absolutely love that one as well. So there are a few, games that I'd been to that I really enjoyed.
Any trip that you must have taken, even though that it was just the one time, like South Sydney have such a dominant record over the Titans, so it was great that you picked up one of
Yeah,
those 12 wins that you've accrued over the Gold
yeah,
Coast Titans over the past 8, 10, 12 sort of seasons. And I had my first Magic round this year, man.
yeah,
And you're exactly right. It is a completely different beast. I
yeah,
don't think Sydney on a Saturday afternoon with 3 games at Accor Stadium could even get 50,000 people there, man.
yeah.
It is just situated perfectly. But before we go into any politics, I've got to stop myself because I'd love to see it go elsewhere. But then again, it'll bleed on to something else. So I'll stop myself while the going's good. Just got a quick question from Mr. McKercher. Sam, was I born in Queensland? Yeah, I was born in the ACT, man. Born in the ACT, moved to Queensland in November, bro. So just a short mid-season review for your South Sydney Rabbitohs. Before you go on, man, thank you to everybody that's tuning in and continuing to trickle in. If you want to check out Ados the Great, click the link in the title and description, and links to his social media platforms will be in the description box below. To give you a little bit of context about my thoughts on the South Sydney Rabbitohs, over the past few seasons, they're one of the sides that I've had to come 9th, come 10th or 8th. They have been, for me, such a hard side to wrangle in because in 2021, you get done by 50, you make the grand final that season, and it's sort of been that way, at least in my view, since 2019. But this year I did have you penciled in for a top 4 finish. I think so anyway, but I'm a lot more confident in South Sydney's finals chances this year than I have been in previous seasons, man. So they have been kind of hard for me to wrangle in and try to get a grasp on, mate. What's it been like for you over the past couple of years, and what do you make of your season so far in 2023?
Oh, look, the last few years, they've been good years. Like, I'm grateful for where we finished all those years. Obviously, I would have loved to win a premiership, but I think what we've been building towards is where we're at now. Like, in 2021, I was pretty confident we'd get we'd go close to winning a premiership, and we did. But this year, I am more so confident. The start of the year was unbelievable. Like, after a few little hiccups, we had a pretty rough first 5 games. I think we played like Roosters, Broncos, Storm, Manly. Like, we had a rough few for the first 5 games. Then we went on that big run, big streak. I think we got like 8 in a row or something like that. And now it's sort of we were so good defensively at the start of the year, very good defensively. But now we're starting to leak in a few too many tries. I'm a bit nervous about that, but I honestly believe, and obviously, people are going to say that it's a biased take, but I honestly believe that even though we are leaking some points, if we can fix that, we are the team to beat. In my opinion, I think we can definitely win a comp this year. I'm more confident this season than I was in 2021.
That's massive, man. Yeah, absolutely. And a fella that we'll touch on more later on, but I got to give him his rap. He's a fella that I've sort of had to wrangle in as well. But Cody Walker, I think he's just about the most informed, the best 5'8" of the competition. Do you think he was? Do you think he's going better this year than in 2021, or is it just about on par? What's your take on Cody Walker's fantastic 2023?
He ages like fine wine, honestly. Every year since he's gotten into the NRL, he's just gotten better. And you don't see it normally. You see them get their peak and then they start to regress. But Cody just seems to go to another level every year. I was listening to the boys on the Bloke in a Bar podcast a while ago, and they were saying like every year he's like top try scorer for 5'8", top line break assists. He's up there with try assists. Like it's improving every year, and that's crazy. Like at his age to still be improving is just it's scary. So I love what we've seen from Cody Walker. I do believe that this season is probably the best we have ever seen from him, because even when he doesn't have the likes of Latrell or Murray there and stuff like that, he still gets results. You know, they might not be as good of results as, you know, when we do have all the boys there, but he's still setting up like 3 tries a game. Like it's insane. And I know like players like, you know, Jerome Luai and stuff like that, they're good players, but I think if you take Yo out of that team, you take Cleary out of that team, he's not doing the same thing that Cody Walker's doing. And I'm not a massive fan of Jerome Luai. I respect what he does. I still think he's a great player, but I just think Cody Walker's just set this new standard for 5'8". Like he is outstanding.
Is it fair for me to say that the first half of 2022, it did take him a bit to get used to it, and then he's just gotten so much better. He's so good these days, man.
2022 at the probably around that round 10, 11 mark, I was thinking, far out, is he right? Because 2021 he had such a good year, and then about close to the midway point of 2022, everyone was just writing him off. And, we even Rabbitohs fans were like, we're going to have to play Blake Taff at 5'8" because he's struggling. And then just after that, he's just gone to another level. Yep. He's just erupted into this new Cody Walker that I don't think a lot of Rabbitohs or fans in general thought we'd ever see again. It's just improving week in week. It's just amazing stuff from him.
Yeah. And just before we go on, I just want to go in and talk about just some of the history between the Rabbits and the Cowboys. Back in 2007, I think it was, Sam was only about, 17 years old or thereabouts. And I reckon there were 2 years in a row or 3 years in a row where the Rabbits and Cowboys played on Sunday afternoon football. And it was such a strange time slot between the two to have. You'd think it'd be a Saturday 7:30, right? And those games on a Sunday afternoon back in the late noughties, man, produced some of the most thrilling classic games on Sunday afternoon footy. So when I see that the Rabbits and Cowboys are doing it again on a Sunday afternoon, I am so nostalgic for it. I'm so excited for the game too, man. Do you recall any of those games back then?
Oh, yeah, I think we were looking at 2007-ish. Roughly around, I would have been just going into high school.
Oh, true.
Bloody hell. I can remember the team pretty close, but I don't know if I could remember moments from those games, to be honest. It's going back a while for me now.
Yeah. No, I'm very, very nostalgic for it, man. Yeah. Well, let's get stuck straight into what we're here to talk about then, man. Rabbits versus Cowboys this Sunday afternoon. It is the Channel 9 free-to-air contest. And on tab.com.au, the South Sydney Rabbitohs are $1.42 favourites, and the Cowboys are $2.90 outsiders. As the home side, Ados, can you please take us through your team lineup for this weekend?
Yeah, so fullback Blake Taff, wingers Alex Johnston and Richie Kennar, in the centres Isaiah Tass and Campbell Graham, at 5'8" Cody Walker, and halfback Lachlan Ilias. Junior Tatola and James Sally make up the front row with Damien Cook at dummy half. Keon Kalol-Matangi and Jed Cartwright in the second row. Cameron Murray, the captain and lock. Michael Cheekham, Saliva Havili, Davey Mawale, and Thomas Burgess round out the bench. Tyrone Munro, who I will talk about soon because I'm hyped about this kid. Peter Mamuzeles, Jacob Host, Daniel Saluka Fafita, and Dean Hawkins round out the reserves.
Thank you, man. And going into the Cowboys lineup, Scott Drinkwater at fullback. The wingers Felt and Valame. Laybut and Hiku are our centres. Dearden, Townsend, the halves. McLean, Hess, Granville make up the front row. Luciano Leilua, Finafuiaki, and Taumalolo make up the back row. And the interchange reads McIntyre, Neem, Tonua Brown, and Jack Gajewski. The reserves, Tom Duffy in at 18th man. I think that's as high as I've seen him. Riley Price, Reece Robson, the rest of the Origin contingent, whether it be for New South Wales or Queensland, they make up the rest of the reserves list. This is the 40th meeting between the two clubs, and the overall head-to-head, you bastard, Ados, is 21 wins to Souths and 17 wins to the Cowboys, with one draw thrown in there, which was played at Gosford in the early 2000s. North Queensland have not defeated South Sydney, full stop, since July of 2017, man. You guys are like our freaking Grim Reaper over the past 6 years now, man. And we have not, or they have not, the Cowboys have defeated the Rabbits at Accor Stadium since 2015. So I reckon if the Cowboys beat the Rabbits this Sunday at Accor Stadium, it means the Cowboys are going to go on to win the premiership. That's how I look at that stat, bro, just quietly. And just a couple more stats as well. Tom Dearden plays his 50th first grade game for North Queensland this Sunday. And your man, Alex Johnston, mate, has scored 6 tries in 3 games against the Cowboys, bro. Felt has scored 3 in 4, so we know who's doing better. And they're both lining up against each other this Sunday afternoon. At least I think so anyway. A couple more stats as well. And this is one of the keys to victory, man. This is a matchup that pits the worst team in the NRL, unfortunately North Queensland, for missed tackles. They are going up against the second best team in the NRL in the South Sydney Rabbitohs for the team who does not miss their tackles, which is kind of extraordinary to think about. And it bleeds into what I was saying before at the start, that they're a team I haven't been able to quite get a grasp on. And it's because I've seen those defensive displays against the Panthers, for example, a couple of years ago, where they would miss tackles, they would leak points. But right now they're sitting as the second best team in the NRL for a team that does not miss their tackles. And Cowboys are the worst. So that is the absolute critical mass. That is the critical mass stat that we need to rectify if we're to be a chance this weekend. Also, the total kick meters as well. Kick meters, we do complete our sets, the North Queensland Cowboys, which means that which has helped us get to being the second best team in the NRL for total kick meters. South Sydney Rabbitohs are sitting at about 10th position for total kick meters. So I reckon not only do we need to make our tackles stick, we can't miss them as well. We've also got to be pretty tactical with our kicking game this weekend. And to now get onto your boys, Ados, let's talk about Lachlan Ilias, mate. Lachlan Ilias had a blockbuster start to the season against the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks. And then against the St. George Illawarra Dragons last weekend, I think it was, or the week before, sorry. In any event, the game he had against the Dragons, I was a little bit disappointed in his performance, just quietly. I know he had a try, but I don't think he led the team around the park well enough. And I think he's now played enough first grade games to not be as shy, for lack of a better term. Ados, what have you made of Lachlan Ilias? Because I think he's been just above average so far, with a sprinkling of a few great games.
No, look, I am one of the biggest fans of Lachie Ilias. Like, I love the kid so much. And, a lot of Rabbitohs fans absolutely talk so much smack about him. And I don't like it. Like he does have pretty bad games sometimes, and I will put my hand up and admit that. But honestly, though, like he's still really young. He's still young, and while he has had quite a few games of rugby league now, he's still really young. I think he's going to be our long-term halfback. But I think a lot of people and a lot of Rabbitohs fans as well are basing, what he's doing to what Adam Reynolds was doing when he replaced Reynolds. Like, I don't know if it's all NRL fans, but I do see a lot of Rabbitohs fans going, well, Adam wouldn't have done that, or Adam wouldn't have done this. Adam did a lot of that when he first started as well. There was a lot of, iffy games when Adam first started, but I will always stick by Lockie Ilias. I believe he started this season off fantastically. I probably too bold of a call by me, but I said that he was the best defensive half in the NRL after 3 rounds. But that's slowly fallen off now. He's still a bloody good defensive half.
Yes.
The tackles he makes, and he makes them on big bloody boys. He gets them around the legs. He pulls them down. I love how good he is defensively. I think he needs to get, if I'm being really critical of him, I think he needs to get his kicking game right, because a lot of the time Cody Walker's got to take control of the kicking game. I think, Ilias, he's got a pretty good running game. Defensively, he is freaking awesome. It's his kicking game I think he lacks, because there was a game, I can't remember who it was against. It was earlier this year. It might have been the Raiders game where he put 2 kicks out in the full, and it really just turned the momentum of the game, and we got battered after that. So, look, I will always have Lockie's back regardless of what other Rabbitohs fans say. I love Lockie Ilias. I am a true believer that he will be the long-term halfback for this club, and he will do a job for us. I'm confident to say that he will win at least a premiership with the Rabbitohs. I'm confident in saying that. Love the kid, and I think he's got a bright future ahead of him.
Yeah, that's so important to remember, that he is still incredibly young, and yet he's got all this experience. He's played finals, and he led Greece around in the Rugby League World Cup as well magnificently last year. It's important to remember he's still young, and I think you're exactly right. You need to keep on supporting Lachlan Ilias, man. He is a fine player. And defensively, I remember a game, I think it was one of the 2 games last year against Eastern Suburbs in the final couple of weeks of this season, where it really stood out to me that, wow, dude, he just doesn't care. Like, he will rip in with his shoulders and cut people down to size, man. Going now into the center position for you guys. Isaiah Tass is one of the fellas that I saw debut last year. Did he debut last year? Did Isaiah Tass debut last year or the year before?
I can't remember. I know he came from the Broncos. I don't think he debuted with the Broncos. I think he may have debuted for us last year, early on in the year.
In any event, he definitely hit my radar big time last year, and I went, right, 2023, Dane Gagai, not Dane Gagai, shifted last year, but you've got an opportunity in front of you now to make the center position your own. And dude, even though Jack Whiten is coming to South Sydney next year, man, Isaiah Tass has done a wonderful job helping Alex Johnston go over the try line for more tries. And Isaiah Tass, man, just a really solid player. I really like the cut of his jib so far in 2023, Isaiah Tass.
Yeah, no, Tassie's been bloody great for us. I think he was a fantastic find, especially with Gagai going. Like, he's just filled that role perfectly, to be honest. I would like him to pass the ball a little bit more to AJ. If I've got to be critical about it, there's sometimes where, mate, just throw that ball to him, he'll go over. But no, he's been very good. I know that the club wants him to stay, and I think he's pretty well going to stay with the club. He's I don't know, what his agents or anything like that are doing, but from what he said, he's happy to fill in any position he wants to stay with us. So I'm hopefully does, because I think he could do a job over on the other wing. I honestly do. Him and Campbell Graham on one side together too would be bloody great.
Yeah, Yeah, it absolutely would, man. So I reckon, this weekend it's going to be Alex Johnston and Isaiah Tass versus. Look, based off of last weekend, man, it's going to be Semi Valame and Peter Hiku defending on that right edge. So Johnston versus Valame. Experience, you would probably suggest that AJ gets the points in that one, and then Tass versus Hiku. I thought Peter Hiku was the best, or no, not the best. But he was absolutely in the top 5 best centers of the game in 2022 was Petr Hiku, and that form just has not been rediscovered so far this year, man. He certainly had his good games, it just has not come close, unfortunately, for Petr Hiku. But you'd probably say the battle of the young bull versus the old bull, I
Yeah,
might give the points to Petr Hiku. And then you go over onto the other edge, man. And just to bring it up here, we're going to have Campbell Graham versus Zach Laybutt. And to give you, if you don't know anything about Zach Laybutt was the captain of the Townsville Blackhawks last year or the year before, and he led them to a Queensland Cup victory in the grand final. So he's come onto the scene over the past couple of weeks since he made his debut, and people have said he's got a bit of class about him. He's got a bit of something, and I'm here to say yes, he absolutely does. I've known about it for a couple of months now, and I'm really excited about his future. Whether it be at North Queensland, fingers crossed, touch wood, that it is forevermore. And then he's going to be partnered with Kyle Felt, who made a serious return last week, man. He ran for, I think, over 200 meters, had a try, and we really missed his go forward coming out of our own end. And yeah, I thought he was fantastic upon return. And then at the fullback, so in saying that, we've covered now our back 5, and I've got to say, I got to wipe my brow big time, bro. And it would have been just about our friggin' luck, North Queensland, because I looked at the casualty ward on NRL.com and it said round 17, Latrell Mitchell is going to return. I went, that would be freaking right, wouldn't it? But it's not happening this weekend, unfortunately. What a troublesome prick of a calf injury this has been, mate. Like,
oh,
I don't know what you have to. Like, I'd love to hear your thoughts about it, but
yeah.
this has been such a prick, mate. But Blake Taff, man, you obviously have all the confidence in the world that he can get the job done this weekend.
100%. Look, obviously I like Blake Taff. I think he's a great player. Obviously, nowhere near the level of Trelmet, but he's still a good player, you know. And I've got all the confidence in the world in him that he'll do a job. But if I'm being completely honest, and as I was saying before about Lockie Ellis, I hate people bashing our players, especially when it's Rabbitohs fans doing it. Look, I love Blake Taff. I think he's a great player, a good replacement for Latrell Mitchell. But long term, I just don't see him at fullback. I think he will come in, he'll do a job for us when we need him. But you know, if let's say Latrell goes through a long term injury next year, I wouldn't mind to go into the market to find another one. And that's only because he's explosive, and you know he can make a break, but he can't break tackles. Not he's not explosive like that.
Yeah.
Like he'll run the ball back at 120 miles an hour, but he doesn't really break that line, you know, unless someone puts him through a hole, and then he's off. Like, don't get me wrong, great when he's in open space, but yeah, coming back out of trouble, I'd be going to the wingers before I go to Taffy, to be honest. And that's me being extremely critical of him. But there's a lot of issues I find in his game that when we go up against a competitive team, which in my opinion, the Cowboys are definitely turning into a competitive team this year, welcoming back a lot of players through injury and suspensions and stuff. It does worry me with having Taffy at fullback. It really does, especially against arguably one of the most informed fullbacks in the comp, bloody Drinky. He was fantastic last week. He was brilliant. So
He
that
has
does
been
worry me.
he has been warming up slowly but nicely in 2023, man. I reckon maybe round 3. I mean, I know he was suspended, for like 3 weeks or so, but I reckon maybe from about round 5 and 7, he came back and he sort of had to knock off the cobwebs again after missing a large chunk to start the season. But he has warmed up really nicely. And just because he scored the match-winning try last week doesn't take anything away from the rest of his game. He was absolutely terrific last Friday night against Penrith. He really was, man. So let's touch on that. Let's touch on State of Origin, man. So that's happening tomorrow night, and you've got Damien Cook who's playing, Cameron Murray as well. Kolomatangi is sitting there as 19th man. Do you expect, what's your feeling? Do you think Cookie and Murray will back up from what is sure to be the most physical game of rugby league all year on Wednesday night?
I'm pretty close with some pretty decent people in Rabbitohs camp, and I'm hearing that depending on how the game goes, Cameron Murray probably won't back up. There's a good, especially with the injury concerns over him. I am hearing that he probably won't back up. He's been named, and obviously, if Eddie Farrer, the club physio, comes out and says, "Yep, he's all good to go," we'll play him. But I think it's probably a 30% chance he plays at the moment. I'm not confident in Murray backing up after Origin. I think Cook will. I'm pretty sure Cook will back up, but I'm not confident in Murray whatsoever. I don't think Murray will back up.
So I've got to look at my team list here again because I've had myself quite the busy day and I haven't had a pure chance to have a fair dinkum look at it. So I look at the reserves list and on first glance, I reckon Robson and Nene will absolutely back up. I think Holmes and Taulagi, who has already played an Origin so far, and Ruben Cotter. I reckon Holmes, Cotter, and Taulagi will not play. That's not because I've got inside word. Yeah. It's just my vibe feeling. But I do think Reece Robson will fight his way in, pushing Jake Granville to the interchange bench, and Jeremiah Nene will probably maybe come in for Jack Gajewski, and I reckon Sam McIntyre may be the man that misses out in all of that. But there is a fella there that I do want to make mention of, bro. Dude, Kulikefu Fenafuiaki only made his Queensland Cup debut. I'm certain it was last year, and he has impressed so rapidly over the past 18 or so months that he debuted at Magic Round. And since then, he has just gotten better and better and probably had his best game of his career last weekend, man. I am so excited about this young man's future, but we can't keep them all, can we, bro? So Fenafuiaki, I believe I think if I'm correct in saying, he's going to be lining up down Isaiah Tass and Alex Johnston's edge, but he's also going to be taking on, if I'm correct in saying, Keon Kolomatangi as well. So Kolomatangi versus Fenafuiaki on Sunday afternoon, man. A couple of really big dudes. But Kolomatangi, bro, he has been sensational for you guys. He's missed a chunk of this season, but Kolomatangi, man, against the St. George Illawarra Dragons, was popping cutout passes, making tackle breaks and meters, man. He was a huge part of your comeback and has been a huge part of your 2023 campaign, man. He has gotten better and better with not just every game, but every single season that has gone by since he's debuted. I think he's been terrific so far, man.
Yep, absolutely. And I say to a lot of people, like, I think Keon Kolomatangi, you got players like Cook, Murray, Walker. I've seen a bad game from them every now and then, like maybe one in every 10. I don't think I've ever seen a bad game from Kolomatangi. There's not a game where he misses many tackles. There's not, even if he doesn't make 100 meters, he's still breaking like 6 or 7 tackles, getting the offload away. I don't think I've seen him with a bad game. I don't think I've seen him with an absolutely elite game like the other players, but I just think he is so consistent and he does the job that we need him to do every single week without failure.
And going on to the forward pack now for the South Sydney Rabbitohs, which is arguably their strength, Junior Totola and Hame Sele. But you got Thomas Burgess, man,
Yeah,
who returns in jersey number 17, bro. It is a pretty big forward pack. Coming into 2023, Cowboys were bookmarked, quoted to be maybe the best forward pack of the competition, and South Sydney would have been about second.
yeah.
So this is going to be a huge, huge physical contest between the forwards, man. But can you talk to me about Hame Sele, man? Because I look at his games and he's already racked up 60, and I go, I swear he's only been around for a year. But
Yeah.
he had against the Penrith Panthers in your win against the Panthers on Anzac weekend,
Yeah.
Hame Sele was put up one of the most underrated performances by a prop all season long, man, in that contest. What's your take on Hame Sele?
Man, I love Hame Sele. I believe he's played for St. George and Penrith before us. I can't remember if he played for any other club. But we'd signed him, and at the time of signing him, I thought, it's probably a good depth signing. He probably won't make the 17. Boy, was I wrong. He has been one of our most consistent forwards as well. Every game, again, a bit like obviously Keon Kalong-Tung is on another level, but Hame Sele is the same. He does a job we need him to do. He doesn't overplay his hand. He's just that tough forward that gets the hard yards done. And I love Hame Sele. I think he's such a great player, and he fits that system so well.
Yeah.
I'm hearing reports that with the Jack Whiten signing, he may be on the outer. Yeah, I know. I hope to God that is not true.
Whoa.
Yeah. As much as I love players like Jed Cartwright, Jacob Host, players like that, I would be putting the money into Hame Sele rather than signing those guys back up. Like,
with all due respect to those other players, yes, Hame Sele, yes, absolutely, I'm with you on that point.
because I saw the report come out. Like, and again, nothing's official at all. Nothing's come out from Hame Sele himself or anybody in Hame Sele's party. So it could be just the media spinning rubbish. But the reports are that he's in talks with the Bulldogs. So I'm hoping that's not true, because God, I'd love to keep him. But again, as you said, we can't keep them all.
Mate, I just got a shiver down my spine when you said the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, bro. Sorry, Bulldogs fans, if you see this, but that wouldn't sit right with anyone, I'd reckon, just quietly. Now, talk to me. You mentioned him before, mate. Let's go to the reserves for your team, mate. Tyrone Munro. Now, please forgive my ignorance because I don't follow South Sydney, but what can you tell us about Tyrone Munro?
Mate, I don't miss a New South Wales Cup game. I will watch every single New South Wales Cup Rabbitohs game. The Facebook account for the NSW RL or whatever it's called.
They're a lifesaver.
They live stream all the games. So I will watch. I've watched. I can tell you about a lot of young players that are coming up. Ethan O'Neill. You've got, obviously, we've seen Tallis Duncan come through the systems. But this young Munro, he's a winger. And he's like, obviously he's not at AJ's level, but he's very similar. He is a try-scoring machine. And, look, I'm obviously not here to spread misinformation, but I honestly believe we could see him debut on the weekend in place of Richie Kennard. Richie's been good for us, but it's funny that we've always been naming Tane Milne in that 18 role while Richie Kennard's been playing on the wing. And now we put this young fella in there. I honestly believe we might see him play this weekend. I really do. I have got huge raps over him. There's another young fella called Josiah Karapani who's coming through the system as well. Amazing young talent. Him and Munro, I've just been waiting for their debuts, and I reckon if it's not this weekend, I wouldn't be surprised if it comes up soon, because he has been outstanding.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, if he does debut, he'd be lining up against Kyle Felt, and that, for a young man with Kyle Felt's stature, man, that would be a hell of a way to debut, bro. At home as well at Sydney Olympic Park, man. the rest of your interchange bench, so you must have really enjoyed, or maybe I don't mean to speak for you, but Saliva Havili was
Oh,
enormous for you guys last year, and I reckon you probably will be, again, not speaking for you, but you probably will be a little bit patient with him as he gets some more minutes under his belt, I assume.
yeah.
But you must have been pleased to see him come back.
Oh, absolutely. And I thought he was, well, it was his first game back, so he didn't set the world alight, but he was still, he was still good for us last week. I thought, in the limited minutes that he played, I thought he did a pretty good job for us there. So I am really rapt that he's back because he is a huge part of this, of what we're doing here, heading towards, I guess you could say, contention for a premiership.
And another player that came back in their previous game, Jason Taumalolo, came back last weekend, man, and made an absolutely enormous difference to
Yeah,
us, man. Like, like I heard bloke in the bar as well recently, man, and they said, "Wow, we've totally forgot what the sort of impact Jason Taumalolo provides." And he was so good last week, man. Not like his 300-meter running best, right? But obviously he's coming back from injury.
yeah,
Tamalolo was absolutely enormous, man. Yeah, the interchange bench man for me. Sam McIntyre, he's just a really good utility player. They could play hooker, front row, lock, wherever you need him to. Griffin Neem, man, is this young fella, mate, that I mean, you know who he is, man. But
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
Griffin Neem, man, is just this merciless prop, mate. He is the size of a mountain, and Jesus, he gets into his work, man.
Yeah.
So my question for you, mate, the looking at the Cowboys lineup, who's a couple of players that you think may be our weakness and our strengths this weekend, man?
That's tough. One thing I will say before I get into it,
Yeah, dude.
um, the four, the Rabbitohs over the last few weeks, especially from that Raiders game where we started to sort of fade off a bit, our forward pack has been lacking for us. So as much as I am pretty confident the Rabbitohs win this game, I am also very nervous because this Cowboys forward pack, even with their Origin players, they can do a number on you. So I am nervous about that. But um, the strengths for the Cowboys, especially in the forward pack, you're definitely looking at, your Jason Taumalolos. Luciano Leilua, since returning, has been outstanding. And while I think Cohen Hess has been sort of slow to get into 2023, he is still, if he's on far out, he's hard to stop.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Cohen Hess for me is probably your strength and weakness at the same time, because if he's on, boy, he's hard to stop. But
Yeah.
if he's not on, he's throwing stupid offloads and just giving away idiotic penalties. That can cost you the game, especially. And I think a lot of NRL fans can see that Rabbitohs love stop-start footy. So if you give away a penalty, we'll make you pay. If you
Yeah.
keep that ball in play and you don't give away penalties or six against, we crumble. We absolutely crumble. We can't do continuous footy. We love the stop start footy. So if Cohen Hess and players like that, like Luciano Leilua, keep their cool and don't go giving away stupid penalties, I really think that is another big strength for you guys going into this game, because you'll eliminate that stop start footy and really, have every opportunity to win it. We saw it against Parramatta. Parramatta gave away next to no penalties. We got pumped. I think it was like 36-12, like
Yeah.
crazy. So I think if you guys can eliminate the penalties, that'll be your biggest strength, in my opinion, because we struggle in that aspect of the footy.
And it's a good thing that the Cowboys aren't the second most penalised side in the National Rugby League, Ados. God damn, man, our discipline this year. Second
Yeah.
worst in the competition, only behind Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, mate. So, that you're exactly right. And then you look at the post-contact meters and the overall run meters as well. Like, kick meters for the Cowboys is great in comparison to the Rabbitohs, but the running meters and the post-contact meters that the Rabbitohs have got, the line breaks and the tackle breaks, it's here for the Rabbits, and it's here for the North
Yeah.
Queensland Cowboys, man. So, yeah, if you guys do get on a rumble, it's going to be really hard to stop. So, yeah, the battle of the forward pack this weekend is going to be immense. It's going to be
Yeah.
huge. The battle of Dearden versus Walker and the battle of Townsend versus Ilias, I think the Cowboys need to play so tactical with their kicking game. They need to find that grass and they need to be disciplined and not miss 59 tackles this weekend against South Sydney, who will just score 50 points on you.
Yeah.
They'll score a try every missed tackle, fair dinkum, man. So it's going to be a great game. So let's wrap things up now, man.
Yep.
What's your tip this weekend for South Sydney versus North Queensland?
I've backed the Rabbitohs, especially now. Look, if this was in North Queensland, I think completely different game. And it all depends on who backs up. Now, I do think, and I believe the Rabbitohs can win this game 13 plus if everything goes right for us. But I think I'm going to tip them 1-12.
Okay.
Because there's question marks over Murray. I don't know if Cook will back up. I know you guys probably won't have. You'll have players that won't back up, but I just think if we lose, and without Latrell Mitchell as well, like that's a lot of attack gone. If Cookie, Murray, and Mitchell all out, like, and I know you said the forward packs, like the post contact meters are like up here for the Rabbitohs and down here for the Cowboys. I think a lot of those stats come from earlier on in the year when the Rabbitohs were on a roll and the Cowboys were sort of back from the pack a bit. But now the momentum's sort of switching and you're seeing the Cowboys are sort of, well, they're not at the level that you'd obviously want them to be yet. They're moving up in the right direction. Where the Rabbitohs, we've been struggling a little bit of late. And we're kind of, especially with the forward pack, like the stats, I reckon if you run the stats for the last 5-6 games, I reckon it'll be closer than what the overall stats say. So I think I am very confident we win this game, but it is definitely a game that could go either way.
Yeah, definitely, man. If the Cowboys are to win, the Rabbitohs scored 30 points. I know it's against the Dragons, and it's a completely different level of opposition this weekend, but they did score 30 points without a couple of your superstars. So the ability is still there, man, and the Cowboys are still, unfortunately, missing tackles, but that's such a great point that you made up. It'd be interesting to see what it would be like over the past 5 weeks since that game against the West Tigers. I hate to mention that frigging game. But yeah, if the Cowboys are to win, and yes, I'm going to tip the North Queensland Cowboys. If they're going to win, I don't think it's going to be like a 16-10. I think it's going to be something like a 25-18 sort of a score line. I think it's going to be a 3-4, even maybe a 4-5 sort of a score line for the North Queensland Cowboys. And I'll back Felt again to be an anytime try scorer as well. I've got a bit of confidence about him maybe leaping over the top of Richie Kenner in that regard. But yeah, I think this is arguably the game of the round. It's a bit of a dry round, but I think this might actually be the game of the round coming into and may end up being the game of the round. So you're going for the Rabbits. I'm going for the Cowboys. No surprises there, but I think we're in for a hell of a lot of surprises on Sunday because I think this is going to be a fantastic contest. Ados, man, is there anything coming up on your channel or on any of your social media platforms you want to let people know about?
Not really. I think it's mainly the same every week, tipping videos, do my power rankings later on in the week and stuff like that, but nothing new. It's all just the same old stuff, to be honest. Nothing really new going on for me. So
No, it's always good to meet new people, talk rugby league, and you work so hard at it. I've noticed that, and your hard work is the reason why I've noticed it, and it is such a pleasure. It's awesome to have you on, man. It really is. You are a fantastic content creator, and I will put the links to all of Ados the Great's social medias in the description box below in a couple of minutes' time. So thank you very much for your time, Ados. Please go and subscribe to his channel, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Go you Cowboys! And I'll talk to you guys in the next episode. Thank you very much, everybody. Take care and adios.